I saw a ghost in a marketplace in Ghana. Not a person. Not a spirit. A shirt. My designer shirt. Hanging there between piles of second-hand clothes, swaying in the thick, humid air. The same expensive designer shirt I had bought in London. The same tiny tear near the hem. The same faint stain from a drunken night out. But that was impossible. I had thrown it away months ago. So how the hell was it here? Welcome back to EcoNightmares, where we unveil the true horror stories of nature. Tonight, we bring you a nightmare that happened and shocked me to my core. I used to be obsessed with fashion. Luxury brands, designer labels, the newest collections. My closet was a museum of excess, Balenciaga, Prada, Louis Vuitton. Pieces I barely wore, some still with tags, because I was always chasing the next trend. And then there was the designer shirt. I bought it straight from a flagship store in London. Limited edition. Cost me more than I'd ever admit. But I didn't care, it made me feel important. I wore it a few times. A date night, a party, one blurry weekend in Ibiza. Then, like everything else in my wardrobe, it got replaced. Out of style. Old news. So I did what any responsible person would do. I donated it. Dropped it in one of those big collection bins on the street, feeling like I'd done my good deed for the day. Maybe it would go to someone who needed it more. Maybe it would find a second life. And that was supposed to be the end of it. Except it wasn't. Because somehow, my shirt had traveled over 4,000 miles to this market in Accra, Ghana. Waiting for me. The realization hits. I reach for it, my fingers trembling. The fabric was faded, worn thinner than I remembered. But the tag was still there, inside, but barely visible, with my faded initials. A cold chill crept up my spine. This wasn't just some similar shirt. This was mine. I turned to the vendor, my voice unsteady. Where did you get this? He barely looked up. Bail shipment from overseas. He waved a hand at the piles behind him, mountains of second-hand clothes. A graveyard of Western fashion. That's when it hit me. All those times I had stuffed my old clothes into donation bins, thinking I was helping. They were not being given to people in need. They were being dumped. Shipped across the world in bulk. Packaged, resold, discarded again. A never-ending cycle of waste. And then, I saw something worse. Beyond the stores, past the vendors, there was a river. Or at least, what used to be a river. Now, it was choked with fabric. So many clothes they had turned the water black. Shirts, dresses, jeans, all tangled together like a drowning corpse. The air smelled rotten. A mix of chemicals, sweat, and something more toxic. Chemicals from dyes and synthetic fabrics leaching into the water, poisoning everything. A woman stood nearby, sorting through a pile. She picked up a tattered dress, shook her head, and threw it aside, straight into the growing mass of discarded clothing. It disappeared into the river without a sound. I felt sick. This wasn't just some charity gone wrong. This was a horror story, one we had written, one we were still writing every single day. Because this wasn't just my shirt. This was millions of shirts. This was the ugly afterlife of fast fashion. I thought donating my clothes was the right thing to do. But it didn't help anyone. It had just become waste. A problem shoved onto someone else. And now, it was too much. Too much to fix. Too much to bury. Too much to ignore. The fashion industry creates over 100 billion garments a year. That's more clothes than there are people on this planet. And brands don't want us to hold on to them. They make sure new styles come out faster than we can wear the ones we already own. They make sure the clothes don't last, so we are forced to replace them. And when we do, we think we are doing the right thing by donating them. But only a tiny fraction of donated clothes are resold in our home countries. The rest, they get shipped here. To places like Accra. where they flood markets and overwhelm communities, pile up in landfills, or worse, end up here, in this river, bleeding die into the water, poisoning the soil, suffocating the earth. I looked down at my hands, still clutching my old shirt. I had bought it to feel powerful, to feel important. But now, it just felt like a mistake. I left that market feeling haunted. Not by ghosts, but by the things we throw away. The things we forget because they don't disappear. They pile up. They flood cities. They poison rivers. They choke the earth. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, they come back to find you. And they never, ever leave. Fast fashion is a monster. We buy. We discard. We forget. But the clothes, they don't disappear. They live on. Piling up in landfills, polluting rivers, suffocating communities thousands of miles away. We think we're doing good by donating. But often, we're just exporting our waste. And someday, like my designer shirt, it might come back to haunt us. Choose wisely. Buy less. Wear longer. Because the nightmare of waste never ends. If this story made you think twice about your wardrobe, hit like, subscribe, and share. This isn't fiction. This is real.